Welcome to Rethinking Death.life, the podcast where we flip the script on the spoiler alert. Everyone dies.
Hosted by the witty widowed death doula duo,
Kathy Dempsey
and Kim Harms.
We know our way around both life and afterlife prep. We tackle the big questions with humor and heart and a healthy dose of reality talk.
Whether you're planning your epic exit, pondering what's next, or just want to know if death really has a sense of humor, we've got you covered. Because rethinking death might just be the secret to truly living. Today, we're in for a rare treat. Allow me to introduce our friend and author, speaker, true visionary, and the woman affectionately known as the doyenne of death, Gail Rubin. Welcome, Gail. Thank you so much for coming on our first guest speaker podcast.
Great to be with you.
Oh, thank you, Gail. Thank you, Gail. We appreciate it so much. So we just wanted to ask you a few questions today. One of them was, why do you think it's important for families to have open conversations about death?
Well, despite great advances in medical care, we are all going to die. We have a 100% mortality rate. So it's going to happen whether we talk about it or not. And we're better off if we do have conversations. And my motto is, just like talking about sex won't make you pregnant, talking about funerals won't make you dead.
Right.
Very, very true. So, Gail, what are some of the common fears or misconceptions that keep people from discussing end-of-life issues with their loved ones?
Well, I think number one is, if we talk about it, it's going to happen. And yeah, it's going to happen whether we talk about it or not. So get rid of that misconception right off the bat. And, my husband did die a year after we pre-planned our funerals. And thank God we had pre-planned, because his death after medical complications after prostate surgery, that didn't cause him to die as a result of pre-planning our funerals. But, as the widow in that case, oh my God, it was such a big help to have already pulled that information together and made our plans and actually paid for them during a really bad time in my life. So going ahead and making those plans didn't make that happen, but it's a big help to have already put them in place.
Yeah, absolutely. Gail, how do you recommend starting the conversation about death, especially with family members who may be resistant or a little uncomfortable?
I am a big fan of using TV or film clips to get people to learn and talk. And my favorite go-to is the 1976 Mary Tyler Moore Show episode, Chuckles Bites the Dust.
Wow.
It's hysterical. And it's all about, talking about death and talking about funerals, but in a way that makes you laugh. And when you laugh, you get endorphins in your system that can help you relax about a very stress-inducing topic. And the last scene in the show is they all come back to Mary's apartment after Chuckles' funeral, where Mary has lost it, laughing outrageously because she's been so suppressed during the earlier part of the show about, we have to, plan this funeral, where they talk about cremation, burial, just park me out there on the curb with my hat on and the trash, which is not legal. And Ted, of course, says, just freeze me. So there's all sorts of options posited there at the very end. So you can watch it. It's less than 30 minutes, and it's available on streaming. And it's a great way to break the ice.
Wow. I've never seen that episode, as many Mary Tyler Moore shows as I've seen. So I'll put that on my list.
Me too. We need to we'll put it under references. Chuckles Bites the Dust. Oh my goodness. So thank you, Gail. What topics should families prioritize when having these discussions? For example, healthcare directives, burial preferences, financial planning. What topics do you think we need to talk about?
Ideally, because if medical emergencies get involved, your advanced medical directives is probably the first thing one should take care of. But, talking about what do you want to do with the body is also important. Uh, Cremation, burial, donation to science. There's a lot of new options opening up with, you can be composted or water cremation, and there's all kinds of choices to make there. But and then of course, yeah, you do want the financial. Probably the big question is, do you have a will? Is most basic.
Right, right. Well, Gail, how do you balance that addressing of the practical matters like wills and directives with the emotional aspects of actually preparing for death?
I think it requires a certain level of self-esteem to be able to openly and honestly talk about death-related issues, because there are studies that show that only about a third of adults do any end-of-life planning. And I don't know if you guys remember hearing
Jack Canfield?
Jack Canfield. I've heard Jack Canfield cite some study that says that 2/3 of adults have low self-esteem. So look to your left, look to your right. One of you is good, two of you are in trouble. And I have thought for a very long time that it's the people with good self-esteem, that 1/3, that are actually going ahead and planning ahead for end-of-life issues.
Interesting.
If you have low self-esteem, death is very scary and you don't want to talk about it. So I don't know if we can raise everybody's self-esteem, but that might be a good starting point.
It takes a village, right? It takes a village. And our final question, how can parents approach the topic of death with younger children or teens in a way that's age appropriate and meaningful?
Boy, I would have to refer you to Mr. Rogers. Mr. Rogers said, if you can talk about it, you can deal with it. And I would say use specific language, not euphemisms, and just be gentle and maybe ask them questions about their understanding of death.
One of the resources that I have, that I wrote a kid's book on shedding and dealing with grief and loss and death and dying. And it's been put into a lot of the school systems, the Houston school system, the Boston school system, and they're using this in their curriculum. It's true and false questions. Parents and kids talk about it, and teachers and kids talk about it openly, and it's fun, and it's about Lenny the lizard, who went through some loss.
See?
Great resource.
So let me ask you, Gail, what advice do you have for handling disagreements or strong emotions that may arise during some of these discussions?
I would say, time out. Postpone it, but come back to it when the emotions aren't running quite so high.
Yeah.
Or maybe try to ask questions about, why are you so upset about this? What is at the root of this?
Yeah. Help me understand,
Yeah.
Well, Gail, thank you so much for your answers. They've been wonderful. Can you just share with us where our listeners can get in touch with you if they have any additional questions or want to buy your amazing books, because they are amazing?
agoodgoodbye.com is my main website. And you can always email me, Gail, Gail, at agoodgoodbye.com. Would love to hear from you.
Thank you so much.
Great. Thanks, Gail.
Thanks.